Good, how are you?
You want to know something cool?
Yeah.
This is episode 250.
Oh, wow.
Episode 250 and the last one of 2024.
To end the year.
To end the year.
Pretty sick.
Was it a good year for you? How would you rate your year out of 10?
Oh, every year's a 10.
You're the worst.
Yeah, it was
Fair though, I guess.
It was good.
It's very positive.
It went by seemingly quickly now that I think back to it. No major issues, which is always good. Yeah, I think it was pretty fruitful.
Yeah, I guess it's a good year when you don't step on a landmine, figuratively.
Yeah. Comfortable place with photography and life and work and everything. So feels pretty good. Like to build upon that going into next year.
Yeah, and we're gonna do exactly that this year. We're gonna talk about things we want to focus on and get better, life-wise, photography-wise, mindset-wise, moving into 2025. That some people can maybe some people are like, hey, yeah, me too, or oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to implement that in a way. You know?
Yeah.
Keep it short. Keep it simple. We probably won't keep it simple. Let's be honest. We tangent.
We do.
But I figured we'd both share maybe two things that we want to focus on moving into the new year and make an episode out of that. So with that, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right. Let me pull up my notes.
Oh, he has notes.
Yeah, but they're simple notes. Don't worry. I need to get better at being more type B in situations.
Type B.
Yeah. Like doing a little bit of unlearning from I've been very much operating from the mentality of go, 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 efficiency, effort. And that's great. You know, sometimes we talk about how strengths can be our biggest weaknesses. I think sometimes I just need to be okay. For example, like flipping on an Xbox and playing a video game for an hour with friends or something. Or, you know, something that has no obvious or direct productive value, but is valuable in the sense of, I think I'm more so thinking human connection, like making more time to just shoot the shit with buddies and stuff, where it's not even necessarily involving a camera or something creative. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to always feeling like not putting 100% effort into something productive is like a waste of time.
Right. That's a good one.
So that's my first one. And it kind of ties into, I'll keep going. It kind of ties into my second one, which is we talk a lot about, I think we've done some episodes where we talk about being fluid and also being rigid, right? In terms of, this buzzword, I dislike it, but like having non-negotiables and things that get done no matter what. For example, I know this relates to you. 8 hours of sleep is a non-negotiable, right? I think you're fairly habitualized. You have your things that you do on the daily, right?
Yeah.
Whether they're at the same time every day or not. I definitely have mine. Like I always stretch every day. I always try and get 8 hours of sleep. We know the cold showers, the runs, that kind of stuff that people either think are ridiculous or get. But where I'm going with this also is I think it can have those things are designed, like so rituals and habits like that, I feel like give us a sense of control and obvious agency, which allows us to control our environment and our day and plan into the near future, which I feel like is helpful for avoiding anxiety. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that it gives you some comfort, some structure, some routine.
Right.
Which just helps knowing your day-to-day plans. I'm big on like timing and when's this appointment? When's that appointment? Like, because I'm doing, I think, a good amount. Not saying way more than anyone else, but just every human, every adult
Mhm.
human is, especially one with kids or a kid or dogs or pets or whatever. Like you're not just thinking about just yourself. So there's a juggling act that has to go into all of life.
Mhm.
So every day, it's hard for me to think very forward, like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, unless it's really something that's in the calendar.
Right.
But on a day to day basis, I'm very conscious of what's tomorrow look like, and like fitting in puzzle pieces as I kind of go.
Right.
And if I don't, then I'm gonna miss something.
Got it. So for me, a lot of my daily habits or things I do as part of my routine are difficult on purpose. We've talked about this. For example, remember I did the cold shower last year was or 2023? 2023 was a cold shower every single day or a cold plunge, which was shitty. Right? And it was we all know that story. It was a experiment to do something difficult and but it's stuck as part of my routine. And so a lot of I have other things like that, like running and things like that. And originally the thought was if you do these difficult things daily, they'll make you, more resilient when other tough times come, or they'll make you mentally stronger. That kind of thought process. And I'm realizing that it can work the other way against you. For example, if you miss, like, let's say you miss your streak, right? You miss your cold shower for the day, or you miss 2 runs. That's part of your daily routine that helps you stay kind of grounded and sane. That just missing one or missing a couple things can unhinge you.
Mm,
And that's the opposite effect. So I'm trying to, moving into 2025, finding the balance between being okay with not accomplishing something for the day that's usually part of my routine, but also not letting it slide long term. Because if missing the habit or the thing one time causes anxiety, frustration, unease, it's not really, you actually become more fragile, I've found, because it's not serving what it initially set out to do. But not taking it so far where you just stop doing the thing altogether, and you creep into apathy territory. So I guess the key word would be balance, and being not overly rigid to the point where missing something that you set out or plan to do causes the reverse effect, essentially like weakness on your mind.
yeah, and one of mine is kind of the opposite of that, or like what you're saying. So it's the balance part, but not slipping into um, apathy or missing things for a long time.
Mhm.
Uh, but I wonder, you mentioned something, and I'm playing devil's advocate, and I don't know if it's necessarily true or not true, but uh, when you say, or when people say, like, doing hard things, that's going to help you for when life gets hard. Now, jumping in the cold ocean is tough, but I don't care. I feel like if you do that 100 times in a row
Mhm.
and then lose a parent that
Of course.
first time, you're going to reflect on that. I would argue that doing the same hard thing makes that same hard thing easier.
Yes, I would agree with that as well.
Because
So,
when you get
oh,
a
yeah.
new stressor in life,
Mhm.
it almost is its separate entity that you have to get through.
Yeah.
And you may have skills and you may have things, but like I don't know how much easier new things become
Right.
when they're tough.
So then I'll clarify from how I view it. It's not
Mhm.
so much that, hey, if I go in the cold water all the time, then when, my dog dies, it'll be super easy. Right?
Right.
That's ridiculous. I think it's here's an acute stress that's not majorly overwhelming like a life event like that would be.
Mhm.
Here's a chance on a small scale to practice something daily and to practice being able to keep my mind functioning
Right.
rather than I'm going to be able to cope with the worst of the worst and just not even have it phase me. I don't think that's it. I think it's I can operate and cognitively function under stress repeatedly. And more so, I think it's the hard things doing the hard things concept. Like you said, it isn't to make really, really hard things easy. It's being able to cue into how you feel in that moment. So
Mm.
cold shower. I'm panicking. I'm freaking out. This is so cold. I feel like I'm going to die in here. And things you mentioned, counting breath.
Mhm.
That's a useful tool for when you're having another stressor, maybe not to the extent you described outside of that environment, to bring yourself back into a place where you can move forward and operate and function in a way that avoids you completely
Yeah.
cratering.
Yeah.
Does that make more sense? Because you're
Yeah.
right. Going in a cold shower makes you better at being cold. I mean, you could Neanderthal like that. But if you look for the nuances, I think you can build skills in a somewhat safe in an acute way. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I just
Yeah.
yeah, I think definitely. It's definitely the ability to stay in a cognitive awareness and balance during hard times and hopefully being able to apply anything. But I just imagine like
Yeah.
getting on stage and singing a song in front of 1,000 people for the
Mhm.
first time. Like the you have to still you will be very nervous probably. You have to be very conscious to be in that state to be like, okay, well, from my cold plunge experience, I need to do some box breathing beforehand. I don't know if it alleviates the nerves as much as doing that 100 nights in a row,
Right.
100 open mics in a row. Then you'll be like, oh, I've survived this exact thing.
Mhm.
So maybe it's a
Well, maybe
you did
the
it for a year. You move on to the next hard thing. You just build. You keep building
mhm.
your parallels to life events.
Or hard thing A gives you the courage to do hard thing B for the first time.
Yeah, or knowing you can get through it. Right. That might be more of the key. I got through this one hard thing. It was hard in the beginning, and
I heard
now,
a laughing noise. Say it again.
yeah. What was that?
I accidentally pressed my soundboard and it was
That was your dog. I was like, "What is your dog aspirating? What's
what's
happening?"
that from? That's Zach Galifianakis. No, I had my hand on the slider and I thought it was your dog. But yeah, no, maybe
Yeah.
hard thing A helps me get through with hard thing B.
Mhm.
And I do hard thing B enough times so that harder thing C is still stressful but manageable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in this year, related to that, and being able to relax and take some take some breaths and minutes and watch TV or watch a show or read a book or go for a walk without the camera,
Yeah.
not post something for 2 months,
Mhm.
not feel like I don't know. I think this year was a year of kind of realizing you can get stuck in a lot of time traps. Uh, I really we just had Ian on. I really commend his passion and his love, and it's him. This is what he loves to do, and that's not for everyone. Just as like someone practicing putting for 8 hours or guitar scales for 8 hours a day is not for everyone. But Ian definitely found his thing.
Right.
Uh, to me, as a dad and whatnot, like I've just sort of realized again that balance, maybe balance is going to be the key word here again, as it often is.
Mhm.
But the balance between like, hey man, if you're going to spend 3 hours editing this reel, while your son's upstairs watching TV. What the fuck? You
Yeah,
know, at the end of the day, uh, that's a bad transaction. That's
for
a
you.
bad
For
for
you.
me, for me,
You. Yeah.
for me. Uh, and that's kind of that's the place I've realized. I feel like a little bit this year is like, and that's why I have a lot of ideas in that graveyard because there's a
Mhm.
lot of ideas. There's a lot of things to do and a lot of abilities to be creative and a lot of um just concepts you might want to tackle. But sometimes for me, I'm realizing I'm just going to really be choosy with the gigs I take. And
Mhm.
that might be a dollar amount with the price I put on time, with the posts that I have. Uh, just being more careful, I think, with the one commodity we can't really change, which is time.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this. This ties into my other thing as well. I also want to get better at not feeling guilty for doing things that I deem, quote, unproductive. You ever
Yeah.
struggle with this? But building on your point, oh my God, I just watched 50 minutes of Netflix. And this ties in as well with what we've been talking about on recent episodes. At least I have, with having a kinder voice, because my voice goes to you need. This is my thought process, okay, which I'm trying to get better at. You definitely need to relax and just chill out. Let's say that's Netflix, okay? Watch 50 minutes of Netflix. Dude, what are you doing? You just wasted 50 minutes of your life on that. You could have been doing something productive. Like that's not going to get you further. Like what are you doing? And then there's a guilt because you listen to that voice. And I'm trying to get better at I think the struggle is deciding whether or not that voice is right or if it's uh I guess wrong. And also realizing trying to make friends with that voice in a way that it's, hey, I hear you and I know you're just trying to help. I know that's all it is. And almost not taking your own voice personally. I know
Yeah.
we're getting into like inception here, but that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best way I can describe it.
Yeah. I might be too kind to myself.
Really, how can you be too kind? That's interesting.
I just I don't know what it is. It's come with age a bit. I mean, I wasn't always, but listen, I'm like, I don't know. I'm in the middle. I'm in the prime of my life. Maybe it's some midlife crisis stuff
You
or
keep priming, man. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
sure, sure. But I'm
You do.
just
I'm just
saying,
saying you. I'm kissing butt here.
thank you. Thank you. Uh, I just, if I need to go to bed at 7 p.m. and I'm going to miss out on whatever, like it's okay. If I need a nap, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking one. I'm going to enjoy it. If I know the opposite. Like I can get very strict with like diet and exercise, and then that voice becomes restrictive because there's a plan. But that's a tough way to live all the time. I feel
Yeah.
like it's so I- again balance. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, "Do I have a problem with Netflix? Like I've watched 17 hours this week. Oh, I don't know if that's helping me reach my goals." If your goals are, hey, my goals are I work 9 to 5, I've got a good salary, I'm paying my bills, and you know what? When I get home, I do a quick exercise for 30 minutes, and then I love cinema. I love movies. I love TV.
Mhm.
That's what I like. That's
Mhm.
what I'm going to do. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. But if your goals are like, I want to exercise every day, or I'm trying to train for a marathon with my buddy or what have you, and I watched, 4 seasons of CSI Miami. whatever. uh, and I didn't work out this week. Now I'm like, it's interfering with other pieces of my life. Or my
Mhm.
son's upstairs playing games by himself and I'm addicted to the show. Right now it's like it's moving into other things. So I think if you can be very honest with yourself and that voice can be honest with yourself and you're again looking in the mirror and saying like this isn't a problem. Yeah, I watched 2 hours of Netflix today, but I probably won't turn the TV on for another week. Like it's not a big deal.
Mhm. I think the other thing too, I've actually toyed with this idea of starting to remove, not entirely, but reduce rather, some of the podcast content creators I consume. So, big Huberman Lab listener, I am.
Mhm.
Big Modern Wisdom listener with Chris Williamson.
Yeah.
Love that show. You the list goes on, but the theme amongst all those is optimization, productivity. And I feel like if you're somebody, I feel like I need to hear less of that at times because you can get caught in an echo chamber where that's the only way you know how to function. So recently I've been listening to Theo Vaughn. I mean, who's a comedian, right? And sometimes it's
Mhm.
just kind of, they're insightful conversations, but sometimes it's entertainment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And because you become who you spend most of your time with, whether that's a parasocial relationship or not, right? You become the content creators you constantly consume, or the podcasts or whatever. So I feel like
Yeah.
if you're already someone who's in my case feels like they're constantly on a mission to be the most efficient and get things done and try and improve and optimize, continuing to listen and dig deeper into more of that style of content is not going to help you find that balance that at least I've indicated I desire moving into the new year.
Yeah, I would equate it to if you look at a lot of ads and marketing towards women, a lot of it preys on appearance and makeup and foundation and hair and this and you're not thin enough, you're not young enough, you're not the list goes on and on and on. That's a lot of the marketing, billions of dollars spent into making I feel like women feel less than. I feel
In a
like the
subtle way too.
what's that?
And subtly.
So, yeah, and sometimes not so subtly, but yes, it's a constant theme, and even on like Instagram, you're fighting against constant like imagery of the perfect housewife, the perfect businesswoman, the perfect exercise fitness model, whatever it may be. And the products around that are to better themselves in whichever way the product deems. I think for men, these podcasts are preying on the sense of men, how do you get better, richer, more powerful, stronger, more masculine, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And I think the whole lot of us are pretty average, and that's okay. Like, there's a
Right.
whole group of us, billions of people that are just people trying to get by. And you can kind of drive yourself crazy. I think trying to compare yourself or optimize yourself to a point where you're like, geez, like this really just isn't me though. Like
Yeah.
there's certain people out there with chips on their shoulders that um you don't want you don't want their life. You don't want the chip on the shoulder that got them to put in 12 hours a day since they're 4 years old on guitar or golf or creating a business or making their first million or whatever it is. It's just sometimes it's like that looks cool, like the shiny part of it, but the other part of it's like I'm good just being kind of comfortable and average and finding some new skills and what have you. Like I sat
But
through
why is
prob
it so dissatisfying for so many people? I mean, we're here, or we're here weekly to get better, right?
yeah, well, I guess learning you can say is getting better, but you could also just say learning. It doesn't necessarily mean like getting better,
Fair.
but like talking things out, having fun, undoing a puzzle, trying to all this stuff's fun in moderation maybe. Like you love hockey. I'm sure I've never seen you play, but just by the way you talk about it and you're still doing it, like I bet you're a very good hockey player. But if you're every day you're talking to me about like I want to make the NHL, like at some point you have to say like that. No offense, maybe you can. I don't know. But I'm just saying
Not
at some
anymore.
point you have to be like, you know what, that's not my narrative. Like that's not for me. I like hockey. I'm gonna play every week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do well. I'm gonna try to do good, but like
Someday we'll sit down and have a chat about my childhood in hockey, because that was life. Like, life was hockey at
yeah,
the
I
highest
bet.
level, from the time I was 9 years old to the time I
There's
to my first year of college.
have you seen that reel of the Canadian birth?
Yeah, coming out of the ice with a hockey stick and maple syrup.
Yeah, the whole gear
Pretty much,
just
man.
soaking wet. Yeah.
But it's funny you say that, because like by the end of my hockey career, there was like, man, coaches, people know in all sports, coaches can be so emotionally abusive at the highest level,
Mhm.
and then like you're trying to, at least I was like, I was performing to impress a parent at times, and like fell out of love with the game. Kind of sounds sad. It is, to be honest. It's not their fault. It just, I got to a point where I realized what you described. This isn't in my future, right? And when that's all you know, I remember really, really struggling, man, because I was like, what do I do with my life now? I've gone to school, I've slept, and I've played hockey and traveled. That's been my life for 15 years. So
Yeah.
what now? And now, only recently, I go on the ice just in a friendly men's league once a week, and I look forward to it. You ask Haley, like, I talk about it the next day, like, oh, I can't look, I'm so excited for next Tuesday.
Mhm.
And I like that. I like knowing that I'm never going to be a professional. There's people I grew up playing with who are in the National Hockey League now, and it's like, good for them. Like, that was their path. But it took a while to get there. It took a while. It really did take a while to get there. And funny enough, I think part of what I've described in the first, how deep are we in here? 28 minutes. I think from a young age, there was such a pressure to perform that I think part of me still equates performance, outcome, and result to love. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I want
Like,
you to explain deeper though.
like, performing well means you're worthy of love.
Like from a parent is what
Felt
you're
that way at
referring to.
times, even if that's not
Yeah.
what was indicated. Like, not even that's not what was meant, right?
Yeah.
Because car rides home after a good game were so pleasant, and car rides home after a poor performance for whatever reason were dead silent.
Yeah.
And as opposed to what we've talked about, which is, did you do your best? Yes or no? Why? Why? And just kind
Right.
of like, I don't know, celebrating both the stellar performance and also the lows, and realizing it's just a part of the game. I think I've carried that with me where, and this is a realization I've had in maybe the last month or two, as to why I value great performance. Like, you have to do as best as you can. Otherwise, don't even bother.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, someone that I mean, we're on the podcast, we're talking about mindset all the time. I have counseling background, psychology background. I have lived through sports with my parents, who I don't think really cared that much, but I had those tough coaches. Uh,
Mm.
and as a dad, watching my son play soccer and doing well, um, I totally feel for your parents' narrative and their story, and like it's it's elating when your son does well, or daughter, your child does
Right.
well. It's like nothing feels better, especially like learning situations. Hey, Ben, let's work on this. Let's do this little move. This will help you out, and then they incorporate it in the next game. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, so cool.
Yeah, you're seeing the
Uh,
product of effort, right, that you were a part of?
yeah, and it's just really genuinely want him to do well. Like I really do. And when there's moments of uh, all people, I mean, all athletes have bad games, or their
Mhm.
legs aren't under them, or they just feel like I'm not as fast today, or my stomach hurts, or whatever it is. Like we've all been there where it's like I'm just I'm a big basketball player. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you can make every shot you feel like you shoot up, and sometimes it's like no matter what happening is happening, the ball is not going in,
Mhm.
and it's
The
just
harder you try, the worse it gets.
yeah, that too. And I think that was important for me growing up with coaches, because you talked about and I was kind of smirking, the coach that would light a fire under your butt would make you go out and perform.
Mhm.
I preferred the opposite of that, the coach that was like super positive and believed in me.
Well, I preferred that too, it just didn't work.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That worked for me better. The coach that was freaking out if I made a mistake, then I got a little bit tense and a little bit nervous to make a mistake. Now, however, I did think of one caveat. That was more when I wasn't in the tier of the best players. I was a sophomore in basketball, and there were junior and senior players that were. So
Mhm.
I was trying to make myself, and if I made a mistake, it felt like I just got tensed up because I was not the best player out there, and I didn't want to mess it up for the team. I had
Right.
other people looking down at me. When I was older, a senior, and felt confident in my sport, that technique did help a little bit more, because I was like, I know I can do it. Like he's right.
Mhm.
Um, but to your back to your point, going home and writing, you know, me gently being like, hey, what could we have worked on better, or what could have gone better, or like delicately talking about these things. You can see
But are you
sometimes in
are you
this space.
assuming are you assuming he already knows the game went bad? Or are you asking first?
Say that again. I coughed right when
Are
you were
you
asking.
assuming that he knows it was a subpar performance, or are you asking and getting confirmation?
I think either way, or asking. I think asking more like let's talk about things. Or I've said this. Hey, do you want to hear a few things that I've noticed today? Like things like that. But my point is like super delicate, and like really trying to approach it in the best way possible. And you can see the like deflation, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, he's talking about
How he didn't play
I
well.
didn't hustle enough,
Yeah.
so it all goes back to like I'm not enough. And I always
Mhm.
end those conversations with like, dude, but you're doing awesome, you're 9 years old, I just want you to have fun. Like I'm just trying to help you because you tell me you love soccer, and I want you to keep playing. Like I'm just trying to help, but if you tell me you want to quit soccer tomorrow, that's up to you. Like I'm not a soccer player, I'm just trying to help you enjoy this game the best that you can. Like I'm tiptoeing around
I feel you
that.
need to have those conversations on good days though too.
I do. Oh,
Otherwi
absolutely.
Yeah, because otherwise it's, "Dad thinks I played bad.
Yeah,
He's
no.
talking about me quitting. Maybe I should quit. Maybe I am that I'm not very good." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It begins to, like,
No,
reinforce
everything you
that.
do as a parent, you're almost effed no matter what. Like you're gonna cause trauma and damage and this and that. There's a piece of that I do believe that, because our as children we're looking for so much just blind acceptance.
Mhm.
That's not it's not quite how it is. And
No.
your parents should unconditionally love you, but they should also direct you and push you and guide you,
Yeah. Yeah,
just
for sure.
in a nice way. I mean, there's a way about it, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I'm grateful for a lot of that of what you just described. Um, but I do feel like, I don't know, reputation and performance has been drilled into me very young, um, and, like, not quitting things, which is,
yeah,
that's a good thing to teach.
yeah,
Sometimes you do need to cut your losses though, right? So I understand it's a balance, and I understand everyone's trying to do the best they can do as well, right? But it's funny. It even comes up sometimes now where, like, we'll have an episode that I thought was going to do well, and we put a lot of effort into and thought, and then you look at the stats and you're like, huh, it kind of flopped, and it's like, well, I have to catch myself and celebrate the fact, like, hey, you sat down, you had a good conversation. There was 5 DMs about how good it was and how helpful it was, and trying to focus on that and not get caught up in, oh, it's 20% less streamed than usual. Wonder why. We must not be good enough, right? It's really easy to go down that path in all avenues. Even with like Instagram likes, you can go down that path too, right? So
yeah, yeah. I'm happiest on the show when we don't talk stats for a while.
stats, what do you mean?
Like if you don't,
Right,
not
right,
that it's like sometimes it's good, and you're like, hey, we're up, whatever percent, just randomly, like, oh, hey, this episode did well. We're 30% less
yeah,
or
you can get
thirty
lost in
percent more.
statistics, huh? You can just and then you like you said, I feel you kind of lose a sense of agency where you start blindly making content for the audience, which is, I understand you're supposed to do that, but also at the same time, the audience mutually benefits from your own originality. I feel like, where's the
Very
line
true.
between I'm making this for you and I'm making this for me? The Rick Rubin thing, because the audience may come last, but it does matter, right? That's what I
Yeah,
would add to his quote.
yeah. John Mayer was talking about creating a set list and feeling like I need to play. It was interesting, just even creating the songs. Like, oh, that was a hit. Like I need to play that one. They need to hear
Right.
it. And he's like, the sets that I catered for the audience, thinking what they wanted to hear, were the ones that I was not super invested in because I didn't necessarily want to play them. And then the audience didn't respond the way I thought they would.
Because it's not genuine. It doesn't come across.
Versus, I want to play these songs and I'm going to love it. And therefore, the audience will
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
feel that energy. And now everyone's happy.
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense. Well, we've tangented
Tangented it.
a lot. Do
Yeah.
you have any things on your list moving into 2025 that you want to focus more on, get better at, photography wise, life wise? I mean, it all blends into our practice of photography. I hope people always remember that. That's why we stray.
Yeah.
I feel like the foundations for being better at anything, or maybe not even better, but just uncovering some things.
Yeah. I remember Adam Capola talking about like gold tier clients and
Yeah, you
silver
want more of
tier.
those?
I don't, yeah, I'm not, I like where I am in my life with my career. I like the photography stuff. I really would like to be very deliberate and picky with what I'm doing. You
Mm.
know,
Even more so. I think you already are.
yeah, I think I already am. I think this year was the start of that.
Mhm.
Uh, to really try to pinpoint certain things and certain projects that I'm doing and concentrate on them because I love them and like want to do them and do them to the fullest of my ability and feel like I'm being compensated
Mhm.
and appreciated and it's just a good match. We all have a good match together, a good vibe together. I want a lot of the, or I should say, a few of those clients over the year versus a lot of just trying to build up my portfolio, build like I don't I'm
Yeah.
not at a stage where I feel like I need to take on extra stuff that's not going to be super fruitful in work, in pleasure, in monetary gains, whatever it may be. I just want to be a little bit more picky with that, and then use my time to do what you're saying is like get back into working out more consistently. Um, I have some nagging injuries that have caused that sort of slide
Mhm.
in doing things, and then like I say, my life's pretty full. So if you open a vacuum, it's gonna go. It's gonna suck into like something else will fill it up. Well,
Pretty good Foley.
that was good,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but something's gonna take its place really fast, and then it becomes difficult to sort of undo everything. And maybe that's a bit of an excuse, but it's I want to carve out more consistent time to take care of myself, eat really well, take the time to cook, to shop versus just taking the easy route with some of that stuff.
Right.
So that's a typical after the holidays thing, I think, for most people to be like, "Phew, December was rough. Like, let's get back into it. It's a new year. Let's start fresh." And humans love like endpoints and
Yeah.
start points.
Yeah.
So
So my question to you is what does that plan look like roughly for maybe we can make this an episode in the new year. What does that plan look like? Hey, I want less frequent clients that pay more. I mean, there's a lot of people listening who'll be like, "Me too." How are you going to attack that? Is it
okay.
going to be larger scale projects with people you already work for? Is it going to be a lot of reaching out to bigger brands with bigger ideas? Are you going to cut your quote silver tier client? Like, what does that look like for
Yeah.
you? Have you envisioned this?
Yeah, I think I've learned over the 4 years of doing this, like, commercially, a few things, and I think the few things that I've learned are that I think in our minds, we think big, like, we think, "Oh, Patagonia, Toyota,
Mhm.
Lexus, like, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna pitch them a few ideas." I think mostly that's a waste of time,
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah.
We don't have a marketing agency. We're not like in New York City with top tier clients like that. I think you need a reputation and portfolio of working with those clients to really break through. There's exceptions, I'm sure. However, for most of us, uh, that's just a little bit out of the realm and a little bit of a waste of time. On the other end of that, for example, the it can be the businesses that don't understand that they are a business. I'll put it that way. The businesses that don't understand that they are a business and have to treat marketing seriously. That want photos, that want this, that don't know the ins and outs. They get licensing what, like they're arguing with you about it. They're not understanding the whole process. They're nitpicking certain things. They're promising exposure or like just like that. Meh. Um, I'm pretty good with that. I'm all set.
Mhm.
I think the key demographic is really looking around your where you are. Hopefully you're in a place that has a bunch of businesses, some bigger than others, but locally where you can say like, "Hey, I'm local and I want to create a partnership and I can do a lot of work for you for a reasonable amount of money, but maybe a little bit less than a huge marketing
Yeah.
campaign would come in for."
Yeah.
Now, these are all the things I can do. This is my portfolio. This is my experience. Knowing someone, networking everywhere you go, I think is really helpful and has created my last two situations for me that have been very good. Is knowing people and having the connection to be able to talk to someone and pitch something and them take you seriously because they know you at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in the situation you just described too, here's what I can do. Let me come in. Let me make you a free reel.
Yeah.
That's so low cost that if it doesn't work out, it's not a huge waste of your time. But the risk reward ratio is off the charts. Like I think in that way often. What's the worst case and what's the best case? And if those two are, if the spread between those is quite large, then it's probably worth doing. It doesn't even need to be like it is something. Free work comes up a lot, right? And I think this is an instance where you can. It's tough to get somebody to commit to you prior to ever doing anything for them, unless you have a large body of work that's already the case study, right?
Right.
Like if you're
Mhm.
pitching a tent company and you already have tons of tent stuff, you don't need to offer them a freebie. It's like, hey, I've done the work. Here it is. But
Right.
if you're going and pitching, I don't know, a construction company and you got nothing, I'm probably not going to give you thousands of dollars just off the bat. Like I kind of want to see. The free trial is great, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I
and,
I
and
agree.
it gives you that chance to build the rapport. They get to feel what it's like working with you. And if your house is tidy and you have those skills in order, even if you don't, you can work them on this instance. But if everything goes well, then that's a huge payoff potentially. Uh, so I think the other thing too, which can be helpful, you mentioned people who are confused with or licensing and things like that. Two things I have on this actually. I've started when I mentioned licensing and emails now, I've started adding to the part where I mentioned licensing in the usually in the negotiations pitch phase. Uh, if you're unfamiliar with licensing, I'd be happy to send you another email that explains it for you. If you already know, my apologies. Right? I've
Mhm.
been adding that in. So it's an open door for them to understand as opposed to just here's my licensing fee. And then like you move on to the next point in your email.
Yeah.
They'll
That's
be,
good.
oh, what do you mean? Whereas if you say, I'm happy to explain it to you, people might be, please do. And then it's, that makes sense. Got it.
Yep.
The other thing, point two, is in your example, you mentioned locally, right? Pick up a local magazine in your town. There's tons of them and see who's running ads because more than likely they clearly are familiar with advertising to some degree. They see the value in it. And maybe they are familiar with licensing and how that works. And you can skip a lot of hard steps as opposed to here's this local business that isn't advertising, that doesn't have a huge Instagram presence. Not even like the Instagram presence doesn't matter. Here's this business that isn't doing anything. I'm going to convince them. I think we can get excited about. I'm going to convince somebody to start seeing the importance of having someone create assets. I think the sweet spot is like you said, somebody who wants like better assets
Yeah.
and who's willing to sit down and decide what they can afford to be their own in-house marketing agency.
Right.
And maybe you can create a job for yourself by being more than just a photographer, being that in-house marketing person.
Yeah, and that's the feel that I've liked is I wanna join your team.
Right.
That feels like we're all working together and it's helping everyone.
So funny you said that because another point I have, things I want to do moving into 2025, I have in all caps on my notes is be even more than a photographer. I
Yeah.
put even more because we've said be more than a photographer, like
Yeah.
be even more. Like I'm interested. How can I, with these people you have relationships with, how can I make your marketing plan better? Like I have insight into the creative industry. I'm not necessarily a professional, but I know how video and works and spend a lot of time on socials, especially when you're dealing with owners who are maybe of a generation above you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they shouldn't really have time to be putting into their socials. Like if they're running a successful business, I mean themselves, right?
Mm,
They probably want someone to guide them if they don't already have that person, or if they have that person, but that person doesn't necessarily have the skills to make compelling video or compelling photos.
right, right.
So absolutely. Uh, yeah, and when you're on a team, I want to personally like over deliver, and
Uh-huh.
I have no problem doing it because it's like if you succeed, I'm going to succeed,
Right. That's a good attitude.
and
It's
if
not zero sum, right? Where I get
right,
paid and you do less. It's non-zero sum.
and I would love and the last couple of gigs that I've gotten, the feel was not like this is a one off. The feel was like if this goes well on the first little section of this project, there's endless work. That's what it
You
feels like.
you and I are both good at vocalizing that. I feel like off the start, even in the meet and greet stage, where hey, I feel like we've said this so many times. We're not about one-off relationships. We're more interested in long term if the chemistry's there. Something along those lines. I feel like people love to hear that because nobody wants to do one-offs really. I mean, what
Yeah. And if you think about it in that way, if you're working with a client that you do one big project for them a year, one well paid project a year, and every year you gain one client, one additional client. By year 5, you have 5 big projects you're doing every single year
Mhm.
and continuing those relationships, adding more. Uh, I I think it's really good to be able to pinpoint those clients that are like, and that's what I want to do a better
You're
job
building a
of.
roster. That's what you're talking about. You're building a roster over the years where you can drop lesser paying,
Yeah,
more frequent clients to do bigger scope projects with those who have a budget, with those that you have a good relationship with.
yeah, recognizing a
It's
lot
a
of
macro
green
plan.
flags. Yeah, a lot of
Macro
green
plan.
flags for
Yeah.
further work, and
Quickly, what are your green flags for doing more work for somebody? Challenging you to be quick.
yeah. Is this pre doing the work or
Just
after
in
the
general,
first
like throughout the whole process.
whole process? Well, number one, they like your work, right?
Cool.
They like your work to start, and then they like your work when you did the project for them.
And
Like,
that's confirmed
wow,
through them literally saying that. Wow, we love
yeah,
your work.
wow, this is great, or this has been helpful, or fantastic, or wow,
Love
you
your
really
brand
over
deal.
delivered. So they're valuing what has happened.
Yeah.
Uh, Number two, I feel like it's for when I worked with Telefunken. Our initial meeting was, oh, we need photos of this entire factory. We'd love to get photos of like the soundstage when people perform here. That'd be really cool. We need tons of video and reels for the manufacturing. A drone fly through would be really cool. Oh, you were going to take some of our wooden microphones out into the woods and take photos of them in nature. That's cool. We like that idea. Maybe we could get all our different colors in like let's call it like microphones in the wild. Can you do that? It just the list went on and on and on about their needs, and we only went like, I was like, all right, well, what's your priority? The microphones in the wild.
Mhm.
Let's start there. I
Yeah.
did that all summer,
That's a good green
and
flag.
yeah, and it's like, okay, let me knock this out of the park, and uh, got invited to their holiday party, which is really cool. And it's a funny story because
You.
he messages me, hey, can you come to our holiday party? And I was like, to photograph? And he's like, no, man, I want you to relax and like have fun. So like, again, part of the team, right?
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing at that holiday. He's like, hey, we want to, we, after the new year, like we're going to hit you up. We have an idea for some photographs with some of the new microphones coming out. Cool. Like, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure I could go to him. Hey, I have an idea for 4th of July coming up or this or that. Like it's one of those things where you get that good vibe and you feel like it's endless sort of
Right.
work.
The green flag is that there's clearly going to be lots to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one major thing I'm looking at. Yeah.
They pay on time.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh my
I'm
God.
not going
Huge.
to elaborate.
That's such a
It's
stress.
just nice, you know?
Yeah. What a stress relief when that happens.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, that was easy.
Yeah.
How professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I remember I got paid from a client the day I invoice, and I was like, I will work for you and go above and beyond any day of the week.
Yeah. Makes a difference.
uh,
Those small things make a
it
difference.
just builds trust too and confidence, right?
Yep.
I have one last thing on my notes because I know we both got to get going. I want to get better at closing loops.
Closing loops. Define loop.
Open-ended projects, open-ended email correspondence. In other words, I feel really good and relieved when open-ended tasks, loops are closed, finished, done.
Yeah.
And I'm less stressed out. So
Yeah,
the way I've been
very well.
prioritizing lately is I say, what open loops do I have? So for us right now, for example, a loop we have that's open is confirming our 2025 TPM retreat, getting that up. Like that's a loop. It's just things you need to do, basically.
Yeah.
And I guess getting better at closing them is prioritizing those open loops before starting new things, despite how enticing or how much you convince yourself that new thing needs to be started.
Right.
I get we all have daily things, but it's easy to bounce around. And it's easier for me to open a new loop when I've closed my others. I just work better that way.
Yeah, I think that clears the brain, right?
Yeah. So I've been writing down on my to-do list. I used to operate whatever came to my mind first was clear. On my to-do list for my week, I was like, whatever comes to my mind first is clearly the most important. So I write them down in that order.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm realizing maybe you're just writing those things first because you're the most excited about them. You see the difference? Just like a little change in perspective. And I'm thinking, okay, well, rather than what comes to mind first, what loops do I have open? And then those get written down first. I'd like to, sometimes you slip. That's why I say I want to get better at it going into the new year, because I feel so much better when those are done, closed loop.
Yeah. That makes sense for sure.
Right?
Yeah. There's not much to add to that one. That's just a good one.
You got anything else?
Off the top of my head, no. I think carrying on. We're always looking at this show and seeing how we can grow or improve or make sure that we're still enjoying it and doing what we want to be doing. I think that's a good practice.
We did a full year of YouTube.
I know. I noticed that which seems crazy because it seems new.
So 25% of the podcast has been YouTubed. That's it.
That's
well, it'll be an asymptote, as we know, right?
Yeah.
Just like the shows you've been a part of, the more we do, the closer it gets to the y-axis.
Right.
For all you math nerds, maybe I got it wrong. Correct.
One day I'll be in 99% of all shows.
That's right. You'll be like 99.99999999999%, but you'll never be at 100.
Ever.
Isn't that mind-blowing? Anyways.
Unless they get a raise.
I want to say to you, because you do our video editing and you get the YouTube discussions up, I appreciate you, man. That's not easy work, and you do it on weekends sometimes. And not to get too gushy, but
no.
I'm grateful to have a teammate like you.
Oh, same, dude.
So,
a nice young buck. It's good. Seth's energy keeps me young.
There we go. And lastly, thanks everybody for 250 episodes. That's cool.
Super crazy.
It's really cool.
Thanks for, how many was I in?
Over 200.
Over 200.
My guess would be like 209.
All right. So in 41 more episodes.
250.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have another party.
Yeah. Nothing worse.
No, but seriously, thanks everybody
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
for listening, whether you're new, whether you've been around since the beginning, whether you've popped in and out. We're so appreciative of you.
Which is crazy. 250 weeks in a row,
Yeah.
not missing one.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool.
Bravo.
Would we freak out if we missed one?
Yeah, it's getting heavy on top of it. Like you don't want to end the streak.
No, it just adds. It's
Yeah.
like Atlas holding the stone.
Right.
It's
Right.
heavier.
Yeah.
But you know what? All streaks end.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to scare people. They just literally do. Like, you could do this for another 80 years and die, right? They all go away. But in the meantime, we'll program like we talked about last episode, we'll program ourselves into a AI model and we can have conversations forever, man.
I'll train my son and your future kids. They'll just carry it on, carry the torch.